Hey, one of the things that I'm really excited about in the new version of Ruby on Rails, Rails 8, is the authentication generator. So finally, in Rails core, we have a way of doing authentication. For years, I've been using Devise for, handling logins and sign-ins and user registrations and all that. Going forward in Rails 8, I'm using the core authentication generator, and that's what we're going to walk through in this video. What I sort of like about it is how stripped down it is and how simple it is. So all it really gives you essentially is sessions, essentially like the login system for users. But it doesn't even include registrations like sign up flows. So all of that kind of stuff, sign ups and user profiles and a whole bunch of other things like the really configuring the views and all that. All that needs to be layered on, and that's actually what we have built into instrumental.dev, our components library. And I'm going to show you all that in a separate video, adding on all those customizations to make Rails 8 authentication ready for prime time. But in this video, we're going to just stick to what you get out of the box with core Ruby on Rails, and we're going to install authentication. I'm going to show you around and some of the methods and things that you will find yourself using quite frequently. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to fire up a new Rails app here. I always use Tailwind for the CSS. And let's just make sure that we are up and running. Okay. Now, before we actually get into it, I want to do a little bit of basic setup. I want to set up a homepage. That's what we're going to actually show on the root level before we're logged in. And then I'll create what we'll call a dashboard page. We'll consider that to be the page that you'll see after you are a logged in user. So let's create a controller called pages, give it home and dashboard. All right, and let's add views for that. All right, we're going to add links there in just a second, and then let's do the same on the dashboard. Okay, and we'll update our routes. We'll make the root the home, and then we'll add the dashboard route. Okay, so now we're looking at our homepage. Not much there, obviously. So let's go ahead and install the Rails 8 authentication generator. We'll do Rails G or Rails generate authentication. Let's see what that gave us. So we've got a couple of views for managing passwords and the session. That's like the login view. We have models for session, user, and current. Controllers for session and a passwords controller. We've got this concern called authentication. We've got some methods in there. We're going to dig into that in just a minute. A couple other things down here. And then, and then we have a migration where we will create users and sessions. All right, let's go ahead and migrate that. Let's also take a look at the routes. So it added session and passwords. I'm going to restart the server. Okay, so now that I restarted the server and I refreshed our local host, you'll notice right away that it redirected me straight to the sign-in view. We're not looking at the homepage view anymore. And if we try to, I get rid of that and just try to look at our home view that we had set up earlier, which is still set up as our root route here. It should go to home, but it's redirecting us to the new session view or the sign-in view. So why is that? Well, this is it's actually a nice feature of the authentication system, which works in the opposite way from how Devise works, if you're used to that. So I'm going to open up the pages controller, and what we need to do is add allow unauthenticated access. And we're going to only do that on the home view. So by default, every controller action is protected once you have the authentication installed. So it's going to require a login for every by default. We have to specifically allow unauthenticated access to the specific actions that we want to allow. In this case, we do want the home view to be visible when you're not logged in. So that's why I added that. Let's refresh this and just go to the home page. And now we can see the home page. So that's pretty cool. And let's just add our link that goes to the new session page. New session path. Yep. Not pretty, but it works. It gets us there. Okay, so we can sign in, but we haven't even registered yet. And Rails 8 authentication does not actually give you a registration flow. Now, I'm going to have a separate video that you can watch after this one where I will show you how we generate a registration flow and a whole bunch of other bells and whistles to make our authentication ready for prime time. But for now, let's just basically test it out by creator using the console. So I'm going to do user, create. We're going to give it an email address and a password. So we've created our user. Now, before I actually log in, I still want to do one more thing here. I'm going to go back to our pages controller. And what I want to do is set up some redirects. So if we try to view the home view, but we are already logged in, then we want to redirect to the dashboard view if authenticated. And if we are viewing the dashboard view, we want to kick you to the root path if you're not logged in. You know what? Let's actually make that a new session path. Right now, we are able to view the home page because we are not logged in. I'm going to go to the login view, and now I'm going to log in using that user that I just created. I'm going to sign in, and now we're on the dashboard view. And if I try to view the home view, it's going to just take me right into my dashboard. Now, your application, your product might need to be configured differently. Maybe you still always want to show the home page, but I just wanted to kind of show you that option there. So now that we're on the dashboard view, how do we get out? How do we log out? Well, we need to add a button for that. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to the dashboard, and AI read my mind. I'll log out, session path, method delete. Now, actually, I don't think this is going to work. Let's test it out. Yeah. So you might run into this. The action show view could not be found. So what we actually need to do is change this to a button. And that's because it's a delete method. And I don't know. It's one of those like turbo that makes buttons and links complicated. Long story. That's something for a different video. But that should fix it. Let's test it out now and click log out. And now we are logged out. So yeah, there we go. So the authentication gives us this sign-in view. It also gives us this forgot password, and it has some mailers built in so that it'll send the user a link to then reset their password. But we still don't have like the registration flow. We're going to get into that in the next video. But before we wrap up here, I do want to just walk through some of the things that you will use quite often when you are working with the authentication generator. So the first one you already saw. Actually, some of these you've already saw. So authenticated ? Is a method that you can always check to see whether the user is currently authenticated. So this basically just says if the user is logged in, authenticated means logged in, then we want to redirect to the dashboard. In this case, we're doing the opposite. So unless the user is authenticated or unless the user is logged in, then we will redirect. So that's a really handy method that you will use all the time. By the way, most of these are defined in the concern called authentication.rb. Let's open that and take a look. So you can sort of dig into this. I'm not going to go into all the details here. I just want to go into like the most commonly used things. So we've got authenticated. The other thing that you've already seen here is allow unauthenticated access. Again, that's something that you'll set as a before action on your controllers. So allow unauthenticated access. In this case, I'm only doing that on the home action. So by default, again, every action is going to be protected. It is going to require the user to be authenticated unless you allow unauthenticated access. So I actually like this. It works in the opposite way from how Devise worked, where Devise always allowed every action and you would have to specifically require authentication on the ones that you wanted to. this seems safer, and yeah, it just seems that this is, I like the design of this better. After authentication URL. So this is another thing. Now, in this case, I actually didn't need to customize this because we kind of handled this here in the Pages controller. But you can go into authentication.rb and you'll find this. So after authentication URL, basically it's saying after the person logs in, we're going to redirect to the root URL. That's not going to be what you need in every situation. So you might want to customize that here. In this case, since I did set up the Pages redirect, so the home view, the home action for Pages is our root path. So that's what we have set as the after authentication URL. It's going to send you to the root path, and then we use our controller to redirect you into the dashboard. So that's going to be a different configuration for every product, but that's a really good one to be aware of. The last one, and this is something that you'll probably use all the time, is current.user. So the current class, the current model handles the current session, and you get the current user by doing current.user. So let's take a look at our dashboard view just to show you how this works. And we can, let's say we wanted to like output the current user's email address. Right, so here it's going to say welcome current user and the email. And actually, this is another thing that's different between authentication in Rails versus Devise, which is what I was used to. They actually named the email column email address. So that tripped me up quite a bit because I'm used to just calling it email. You can customize that, of course, but I just like to keep it the way that it is right out of the box. So this is going to say current user and the email address of the current user. Let's take a look at that. Oh, we have to log in again because I had logged out last time. And there we go. So, like if you add other things to your user model, like a first name, a last name, an avatar, and these are actually things that I'm going to be adding to the user and our user profiles in the next video. You can output those things by calling current.user. Another thing that I like to do, and again, this is getting into the customizations that I'm going to do separately, is I like to create a helper method because I'm so used to the old Devise way of just using, instead of this, doing like current user. So that's not available out of the box with the authentication generator. So I like to create a little helper method just because it's like out of habit and muscle memory. I still go to current_user, but that's essentially the same as current.user. So, there's a couple other things built into the authentication. So you'll want to dig through this and learn a bit from the code. It's not a whole lot of code. That's why I like it so much. You can check out the session model and the current model and the user model right here. I like how simple it is. It's so much simpler and more lightweight than Devise was. And so then we can just layer on the things that we want to layer on. And that's exactly what I invite you to do with me in the next video. I'm going to show you what we've built into instrumental components for authentication in Rails. So we're going to install a registration flow, like a sign-up flow. We're going to make the views all nice and professional. We're going to add custom avatars and gravatars. We're going to add time zone to users, and we're going to let users edit their own profiles once they're logged in. So all that is going to be set up with instrumental. We'll get into it in the next video. For now, we've got a basic authentication system up and running with Rails 8. Thanks for watching. See ya.